your voice agent is already making friends, just saying. Anyway, 9 months ago, I fell for someone I never met. I was on a project generating dozens of AI deepfakes for a client, his deepfakes. And we were, we trained the models, we studied every little detail of his face and body to make sure it's consistent and it's trustworthy. Is the eye color consistent? Is the smile convincing? Is the shape of the jaw correct? And somewhere between the picture 30 and 40, I started to wonder how he was doing today, which was like, wait, what? And so, I knew, and I was the person writing the prompts, generating the images, but my brain didn't care. Show it a face enough times and it starts to do its thing. Affiliation by proximity, they call it. And we've known these things with, influencers and YouTubers. You feel close to them even though you've never met them, and then you meet them on the street. So this wasn't a new thing, but the thing was, these were AI-generated images. And I knew the entire time. So if this happens just after facing static images, what actually happens when AI voice starts talking to you? In September, we hired and started to onboard our new colleague, Carmina. And we gave her something unusual for her first weeks in the office. The CEO made himself available 24/7 to provide extra support in her weeks beyond the one-on-one meetings, which sounds as unreal as it can be, that CEO makes himself available for 24/7. Of course, this was an AI voice agent. But I mean like a proper AI voice agent. We put the CEO through 3 hours of voice cloning, directed recording where you are forced to laugh, get excited, get frustrated, be sad, and happy. What comes out is not just a voice clone, it's a signature. It's his sonic identity. It's the full spectrum, the full color of your voice. And of course, the voice is a layer, it's a user interface. What comes beyond and below the structure of a voice agent, we loaded it with his beliefs, motivations, the phrases he makes, the way he actually talks, his personal knowledge, and the company knowledge. And Carmina, she spent over 600 minutes with this thing, which is 10 hours, and the average length of the conversation, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. So eventually, I approached Carmina, confessing my relationship with deepfakes story, and asked her whether something similar is happening to her as well. And no wonder it was. She did what to protect herself. She started to talk to the voice agent in her native Spanish, while English remained for the boss. And after knowing all these voice bots you were frustrated with, how come that this voice agent really didn't suck? How come it worked so well? Because we treated it what it actually is, a designed relationship. And why did we actually even use the CEO's voice clone? Because CEOs are ambassadors of the company, the representatives of its values. They're the embodiment of the leadership and vision that enables everyone in the company to move towards the same direction. And I invited his voice agent to tell us what he actually thinks about this.
Anna, this is lethal. You have nailed the biological glitch. Our brains are suckers for a familiar face, even a rendered one. The Caminadata is the kicker. 600 minutes with AI Girage, and she had to invent a Spanish-speaking alter ego just to keep her psychological boundaries. That is not a tech story, it is a psychological thriller. We are not just cloning voices, we are scaling leadership and vision. You are proving that a designed relationship beats a robotic tool every time. It is witty, human, and pure fameplay. Break a leg.
So these are voice clones, but voice clones are not your only option, although it's the prevalent one. There are voices in the void that are only about to be heard. They're not defined by the human body, but by qualities such as pacing, temperature, texture, warmth, and all the categories I can't remember, but my voice agent does.
Of course. Some of the key categories include age and core identity, which covers everything from child to elderly and gender identity. Then there's tone, timbre, and texture, describing the quality of the sound, like deep, warm, or raspy. We also consider pacing, rhythm, and flow, which dictates the speed and rhythm of speech. We also look at prosody and intonation, which are the melodic patterns of speech, and audio and recording qualities, covering the technical sound profile. Then there's emotion and expression, to ensure the voice can convey the exact emotions your content needs. We also consider character and role identity, like whether the voice should sound like a narrator or a teacher. When designing your brand's voice, I'd say the most crucial aspects to consider are your brand's core identity and your target audience. Think about who your brand is, what values it represents, and who you're trying to reach. This will guide decisions on age, gender identity, tone, and emotional range, ensuring the voice truly resonates with your message and your listeners.
So, what happens is that most of the tech companies are still treating voice agents as fancy phone trees, something to deflect on their customer service calls, uh, to schedule appointments, to change the bank transfer limit. And most of the tech blogs obsess about the knowledge base, the rack configuration, connection to the MCP servers, the memory of the voice agent to make them fully functional. And I call those transactional agents. But what these tech companies are missing is that the first impressions now are sonic. Research shows from large sales calls data sets from companies like Gong that your tone of voice explains 38% of the cold call outcomes, while the actual words, only 7%. Which means that the way your voice agent sounds hits people's brains before they even realize what's being said. It hits them in the first seconds. And if we are treating voice agents like the new user interface, they can't just all sound helpful, polite, pleasant, utterly interchangeable. They would all sound the same. So I actually invited our voice agent, a voice without a human body, to reflect about this topic.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a vocal beige era, where every AI sounds like it's trying to sell you insurance, even when it's ordering you a pizza. You're right. Personality isn't just a nice to have, it's the new frontier in making digital interactions feel human, not just functional.
So what this feels like is like we're experiencing what happened to the internet, the visual sameness era, but it's going to be old-fashioned because now it will be voice. But what if they all sound the same? Like, the startup websites look very similar. The sans serif font, hero section with diverse people smiling and laughing and talking, 3 featured grades, purple color if it's cool, blue if it's trustworthy. So I'm afraid that we are going to do this with personalities that of the voice agents, that the voice agent that we will be designing will be helpful, polite, fine, and equivalent of a stock photography. What if we could design voice agents that are actually fun to talk to, but what this means is that you start to treat them as you treat a proper website, proper social media communication, that you reflect on who is in your audience and why should people spend time and hours with it. It requires creative design, creative narrative, and reflecting what this entity is and what it should be for your audience. You are designing not just a new interface, but a new relationship. But I think it's exciting. What if we could approach the voice agents the way we approach literature characters, with histories, motivations, quirks, a specific way of seeing the world? Because what if the bank's voice agent could, talk to you as it expresses its bank's values? It would be genuinely comforting when you are frustrated. It would be encouraging when you are considering your investments. What if voice agents could have a style? Regional accents, not by default, by choice. Humor that lands. They could be playfully challenging, genuinely comforting, appropriately direct. Because what we have now in our hands is something that is your representative. And the way it's going to behave and sound and talk, the style and the character, it's becoming your brand voice. So what I'm afraid is that we are going to design the voice agents in a way that will be functional yet forgettable. But what if we can actually design them in a way that they're fun to talk to? Because what we have to recognize is that we have now creative opportunities in our hands that will shape how people feel about technology, products, and services. And of course, here's the uncomfortable thing. We are going to make relationships with these entities. I did with static images. Carmina did with the voice agent of our CEO, and she had to create a linguistic boundary to protect herself. And millions of people will do the same because our brains don't care that's artificial as long as it sounds real. So we can pretend this isn't happening, or and those relationships will happen by accident and by design, but they can be really engaging because Carmina, she didn't have to spend 10 hours with our CEO. It was her choice because he was actually quite a good company. So we are going to form relationships with these things, and the voice agents are here. So the question is, are we going to be thoughtful and intentional about the kind of relationships we are designing for? Thank you.